Hey, how's it going? My name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be discussing my top 10 TV shows of 2021. And believe it or not, but this list was actually very difficult to narrow down my top 10 because there have been so many good TV shows in the year of 2021. Like, we've really been getting served some amazing TV. So in this video, I'll be counting down my top 10 favorite shows of the year, as well as going over a few honorable mentions. Before we do jump into the TV shows, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to today's sponsor, which is Farmville 3, because you guys know how much I adore farming games. And so when they reached out, like they wanted to work together, I was like, heck yes! This farming game is available on Android and iOS. You can download this game from the App Store or from Google Play. This farming game has some of the cutest and like most visual graphics that I've ever seen on a free game. Like, this literally looks to me like it's like video game quality. Like, this is the kind of game that looks like you would have to pay to use it, but it's completely free to play this game, which is just mind-blowing. Graphics are adorable, like the 3D, the like animation of like planting your crops and like getting the crops and the animals, and they're just so cute. It just has a wide variety of so many fun events that you can participate in, as well as like taking care of all of your animals. I think that you would really enjoy this one if you also enjoy farming games. I've mentioned this before, that there's just something about playing farming games that's just so much fun. It's just such fun escapism, you know? I just want to take care of my farm, take care of my animals, and everything is right in the world. I also really love the storytelling aspect to this game. I think that's something that makes it like stand out against some other farming games. Like, the storytelling aspect of it is also really cool. So yeah, if you're looking for something fun to play, maybe while you're listening to audiobooks, or just something to play during the holiday season, I would definitely recommend checking out Farmville 3. You can use the link in my description to go ahead and download it. And thank you so much to Farmville 3 for sponsoring today's video. Alright, so now to get into the top favorite TV shows of the year. First thing, I want to mention some honorable mentions, because these ones didn't quite make it into my top 10, but they're still amazing shows that I would highly recommend that you watch. The first one is Only Murders in the Building. This one is available on Hulu, and it's like the cutest, like fun murder mystery show. It has Selena Gomez in it. It's just a great time. And then Firefly Lane. This one's on Netflix, and this one is actually a book adaptation, but I actually personally, I enjoyed the show even more than the book. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but that was the case with me. Following these two women who have been friends for their whole lives. One of them is a TV news reporter, so I was obsessed. And then the third show is Them. This one's available on Amazon Prime, and this show it's very Jordan Peele vibes in this one, you know, because we're following this black family who's moving in the 1950s to this small town that's like super white. Everyone in the town is white, and it's about how the town is like making them feel like they need to leave, like they're unwelcome. It's just very unsettling, very disturbing, but so well done. So yeah, those are my three honorable mentions. I also did want to mention Schitt's Creek, because even though Schitt's Creek didn't air this year, I actually watched the entirety of Schitt's Creek for the first time this year, and so I feel like I have to mention it anyways, because even though it didn't have a season in 2021, it actually ended last year, it's still one of my favorite shows of all time, and I highly recommend Schitt's Creek. Like, oh my god, it's so good. I was kind of a skeptic, you know, because in like the first season of Schitt's Creek, I was like, I don't know about this, but then, oh my gosh, you just get so hooked and so sucked into the lives of these characters. Like, and like David is one of my favorite fictional characters to ever exist now, and I just love him. So yeah, Schitt's Creek, it's worth it. Just push through that first season. It's so good. Right, so now on to my top 10. Starting in at number 10, I have You Season 3. This one is available on Netflix. This stars Joe Goldberg, if you didn't know. This one's actually the third season, so I don't want to like spoil anything about the third season, but I really enjoyed this third season of You. If you haven't heard of this show, I mean, this show's like super freaking popular, so you probably know like the gist, but this show basically follows this man named Joe Goldberg who's like low-key this, you know, stalker dude. He stalks women, and it's just this thrilling series about him and his life. The third season, I think, was like really well done. I think the second and the third season are my favorites of the show. The first season is pretty rough, and that's mainly due to the fact that it was on Lifetime originally, and then Netflix ended up buying the rights for the second and third seasons. So I think the second and third seasons, because they're made by Netflix, they're done a lot better in my mind. Whereas the first season, it feels a little Lifetime-ish, you know, because it was. Really love Love's character. she's my favorite. She's the standout on this show for me, and I just love that actress in general, like Victoria. She's just amazing. She's so good on screen, and yeah, I had a lot of fun watching this season. Me and my sister actually binge watched this whole season in one day, so that's how gripping it was because we were able to finish it so quickly. And then coming in at number 9 is going to be Cruel Summer. I didn't really have any expectations going into this one, and I was completely drawn into this mystery. And something that I think makes this show super unique is the fact that we're following this group of teenagers, but we're following them in 3 separate years in the 90s. And so I loved the 90s vibes in the show. It was just so much fun. And the premise of the show is just super unique because this one girl in the group gets kidnapped, and that's kind of like the main like thriller thing that's happening in the show. But the main protagonist girl that we're following, we're trying to figure out like how she might have been involved in this situation or what was going on with her, because her life looks so different in each one of the years, and we're trying to figure out like how she became the way that she did in the later years. It's just really fascinating. I think it's a really well written show because they leave you guessing on a lot of things until the finale. And even the finale, oh my god, I screamed at the end of this finale. I was like, what the fuck? Because it was just so good. It was just so good. And I've heard that there's going to be a second season, which I don't know how I feel about, because I feel like I don't know if it's going to follow the same characters or like what's going to go on, but I really love this first season, and I hope they don't ruin it with a second season. Number 8 on my list is going to be The White Lotus. This one is a limited series, I believe, that's available on HBO. The show was just something else. I don't know what it was about this show. I just loved it so much. And this show, it's kind of like mystery thriller-ish, but it's mostly just like a contemporary show that's like following these rich people as they're vacationing on this island, and things kind of go wrong and you're trying to figure out like what exactly happened. Because the start of the show, it really sets it up like it's gonna be this like mystery thriller, you know? It like leads you to believe that some shit went down. But in reality, it's just this more like laid back contemporary, like there's light mystery happening in the show, but it's not too crazy. But I don't know what it was, like I was just so engaged this whole show. I love all the actors on the show, like Connie Britton, I freaking love her, she's one of my faves, and I just think the characters on the show were really interesting, and the actors did such a great job of like bringing these characters to life. There were so many moments in the show where I just felt so uncomfortable, and I was just laughing so hard because of how uncomfortable that I felt. They just completely nailed the tone of this show. Like I don't know if I've ever seen anything like it. It's just so awkwardly funny. And the freaking like hotel manager dude is one of my favorite characters that I've seen on screen this year. Like he was just so freaking good. And honestly, it's because of his character that I feel like I have the immediate urge to want to rewatch this from the beginning, just because his character made me freaking laugh so much. Like I don't know. And I also just kind of loved the island vibes throughout most of this show. It was very like tropical and beachy, and it just made me want to go on a vacation so freaking badly. Yeah, I loved White Lotus. I know a lot of people were kind of disappointed by the ending, which I can see that for sure, but I thought it was actually really well done. I thought it was perfectly executed. I thought it was amazing. And then coming in at number 7 is gonna be WandaVision. WandaVision is like everything I could have asked for from Marvel for like a limited short series kind of show, because the way that this show was set up was just so freaking cool, you know? I actually, when I watched the first 2 episodes, I wasn't even sure if I wanted to finish the rest of the series, to be honest, because it's a slow burn, oh my gosh. But I love the idea of this show that like every one of the episodes is like a different era of sitcoms. And so like the first 2 episodes were pretty slow because they were like black and white, and they were like, you know, based on like the early like 1950s or 1960s. Then like as we start to move into the later episodes, the way that they kind of take like our modern sitcoms and kind of like make fun of them or like use them as inspiration for these episodes, it's just so well done and it's so cool. And I love the way that the Marvel universe starts to tie in. Like I didn't really get sucked into the show until episode 3 or 4. That's when I really got hooked and I realized like what was happening, and it's just so cool. Like this was I feel like this show is such a risk for Marvel, you know, especially because those first 2 episodes were really slow. Like I know so many of my friends who were like giving up on it after the first 2 episodes because they didn't like it, and I was like, no, you just have to push through it. And I think for Marvel to like take that risk and really take their time with these characters and like with the concept of the show, I think that was really cool of them. Like I don't know, I thought it was so well done, and the ending of the show had me crying like nobody's business, dude. I was a fucking mess. I just love Wanda's character. Like she's genuinely one of my favorite Marvel characters, and so this show is just so special. And then at number 6 on my list is going to be the show Clickbait. And Clickbait was just so much fun. Like, this is one of my ideal thriller kind of shows where you think you have a grasp on things and then you just don't. Like, it has genuinely really good plot twists that I did not see coming. And I love in thriller TV shows when it involves like technology in some way, you know, because the whole thing of the show is how right at the start of the show this guy gets abducted, right? He gets taken, and then there's a video of him uploaded onto the internet that's saying like, I killed someone or something like that, and then he holds up a sign that says, when this video reaches 5 million views, I die. And of course this video just starts spreading like rapid fire through their community and through the world, and we kind of follow his, you know, his wife and his sister and his family as they're trying to figure out like what the heck is going on and what actually happened, and is he actually a killer, or like are they portraying him to be a certain way? Like, how are they, you know, it's so fascinating. Like, dare I say, it's a little Black Mirror-ish kind of vibes in that way. Just like the way that it uses technology to like turn people against each other kind of thing. And oh my god, I just thought this was so good. Like, we were just so invested, like me and my sister and her boyfriend, when we were watching this. Like, I was so invested. I didn't want it to end. And I thought that I had this shit figured out, okay? I went into the finale of the show. I was like, yes, I knew it. I know exactly where this is going. And then boom, no, I was completely wrong. I was shook. And I just love that, you know? I love when a show can surprise you, especially with like how often I consume content in this genre. Like, thrillers and mysteries, like really my go-to genre, you know? So I feel like it takes a lot for me to be surprised lately. And the show, it did it. It just did that, you know? It was so good. And then number 5 on my countdown is Maid. And this one is another Netflix show. Netflix is just absolutely killing it this year. Maid is this really beautiful but also really hard to watch show. And in the show, we're basically following this young mom who is trying to flee from her abusive boyfriend. And this show is really about her, you know, going out there and trying to make it on her own with her daughter. And she ends up having to take this job as a maid just to, like, you know, make some money and, like, make a living for herself. And this show, it's so good. Like, I just love the way that this show is edited. It's very unique in the way that the show is edited. Like, the way it shows, like, her savings on screen and, like, different things like that. This just shows you, like, it feels so real with like what women have to go through who are put in situations where they have to deal with domestic violence and, you know, trying to figure out a life on their own. It's so good, but it is very hard to watch. Like, I will warn you, especially like the first 2 episodes, like they were so heavy that I was like, I don't know if I want to continue watching this. But honestly, like, these characters just really grow on you in the story. Like, I just had to know where it was going and what was gonna happen to her. And so that was like the main motivation that kept me moving through it. And also her daughter is just adorable. Like, she's just so cute. And I feel like the show is especially hard for me to watch because I love Nick Robinson, like the actor in this, and he plays her abusive boyfriend. So like seeing him in that role was just so hard because I love him as an actor so much. And he did amazing, by the way. Like, he did great in this role, but it was just so hard because I was like, I love you, like, you're Love Simon, like, what are you doing? So yeah, I really enjoyed the show. I thought it was so well done. I highly recommend it. Like, if you can handle the trigger warnings, then I highly recommend checking it out. Coming in at number 4 is going to be Mayor of Easttown. This one is available on HBO and it stars Kate Winslet, and this show is just, oh my god, it's so good because Kate Winslet plays this detective. The show is basically about how Kate Winslet takes on this case in their town of a teen mom who was brutally murdered. And that's kind of like what the whole show ends up being about. Like, you're trying to figure out what exactly happened with this teen mom and why she was killed and different things like that. And this is another one where you think you kind of have a grasp on things and then it just completely throws you for a freaking loop. Like, the freaking plot twist in this show, oh my god, I did not see it coming. I didn't see it coming. Like, it was so good. And I also just love, like, the characters in this show are just so well done and they just really grow on you over time, you know, because in the beginning I was like, I don't even know if I like Kate Winslet's character, you know, she was just very unique and like different for a character, like at least for the protagonist of a show, but she really grew on me in this show. Like, I just really loved her, and Kate Winslet is almost like unrecognizable in this role. Like, she does such a good job. Oh my gosh, there's one actor in this show who, like, I don't even know if you're supposed to know that he's in the show or not because he doesn't come in until like a little bit later, I think, but oh my god, he's so precious. Like, what a cinnamon roll. And he actually, like, I'm pretty sure he won a Golden Globe for being in this show, so like, kudos to him. But like his character in the show was everything. Like he was part of the reason why this one ended up being like a favorite for me, because he's precious. Like I love him in this show. Yeah, Mare of Easttown, what a great time. It was such a great show with great characters and a really great mystery. Alright, and coming in at number 3 is going to be Midnight Mass. The show is one that I expected to love because Mike Flanagan is the creator, and Mike Flanagan is the creator of some of my other favorites like The Haunting of Hill House, The Haunting of Bly Manor, and different things like that. Like, he's amazing. And so I already went into the show expecting to enjoy it, but I didn't think that I was going to absolutely love it as much as I did. And the show feels so different from his previous work, but like in the best way, because in this show we're following like this very small island town who's like super religious. Main guy protagonist that we're following, Riley, he had something truly horrific happen to him. Well, not happen to him, like he caused something truly horrific to happen when he was away from the island. And now the show is about how he's coming back to the island and he's feeling very like haunted by his own mistakes, you know? And the whole town kind of knows what happened with him, so they're kind of also very like wary of him, and they're kind of judgy because they know what he did. And then in the small town there's also a lot happening with their church situation with the priest, I think is, yeah, what you would call him. It's just such a fascinating show, and to be honest, like I think I was a little bit hesitant going into this because I don't usually love religious horror because I'm not really a religious person myself, and so religious horror doesn't usually interest me a whole bunch. But in this show, it was just so well done. Like this is probably my favorite like religious horror that I've ever seen. And I don't know, I really loved this show. I loved, Mike Flanagan is so good at writing monologues for his characters. Like some of these monologues have stayed on my mind since I've finished the show. Like it's been a few weeks or maybe even a few months since I finished the show, and I still to this day am like thinking of the different monologues because they were just so well written and so beautiful. And I think for sure my favorite character on the show has to be the cop, because oh my god, he's just amazing. Like I just really loved his character. He was somebody who just stood out to me among all the other characters in the show. But I also really did love like the pastor preacher dude. He was just so well spoken, and he had some of my favorite like moments on the show that stand out to me. Like god, the freaking end of the show, like I will say this show is quite a bit of a slow burn. Okay, like the first like 5 episodes or so I was like, wow, this is a really slow burn show. It is very character driven, but those last 2 episodes or so, oh my god dude, it like freaking goes there, you know? You're like wondering the whole show, you're like, is it gonna actually go there? And it freaking goes there. The last 2 episodes of the show were so freaking intense. I like couldn't even breathe. I couldn't even believe what I was witnessing. It was just craziness. It was so good. This show, up until like the last moment on this show, my like jaw was just hanging open in like shock over the last episode. Like what the fuck? Oh, it was just so good. So good. Coming in at my number 2 spot is going to be This Is Us. And I know you're probably shocked maybe that this isn't my number 1, but This Is Us is just, it's everything. It's so, I love this family. Like, this family in the show feels like they're my family. And I feel like part of the reason is because I've been watching This Is Us for so many years now that these characters, they just like, oh, they really get to me. And This Is Us, I don't even know what season we're on right now. I think it's on like the 5th season. Oh my god, I adore this family. I love these siblings. Like, Randall is one of my favorite characters that I've ever seen on TV because he's just so relatable and he's so inspiring. I freaking love Jack and Rebecca as their parents. Like, they're just parent goals, and they're just so freaking cute, and they just make me feel so happy. Like, every time I watch the show, I just feel so happy. I freaking cry in every single episode. Like, there's not one single episode, I think, of This Is Us that hasn't made me cry. And especially with, like, the situations going on in season 5. Like, I'm not gonna give any spoilers for the show, so if you haven't seen any of the show, no worries, this will not include any spoilers. My god, what an amazing story. And, you know, I think something that's, you know, especially crazy about season 5 is the fact that some of season 5 is taking place during 2020 or 2021, and so COVID is a part of the show, which is just like, I think that's like such a risk right now for TV shows to be including things like COVID, because it's just such a sensitive topic still, you know, because we're still very much in this pandemic. But I also think it just makes it feel even more real. Like, it just makes these characters feel like they're living in our times. and like seeing how they handle certain things, it's just very inspiring. Like, I don't know, it makes me feel like it's even more realistic. Oh, season 5 was just so good. Like, some of the moments, especially moments between like Randall and Kevin in this season, I just can't, like, oh, it was just so good. Like, it was so good. The show will always just mean so much to me. It makes my heart hurt, and I'm so sad to know that starting next year in January, they're gonna start airing the final season, the 6th final season of This Is Us. Like, I'm so not ready to say goodbye to this show. And now for my number 1 favorite show of the year. Have you guessed it? You probably already know. If you know my taste, you probably already know, because it's Squid Game. I loved Squid Game so much. I went into it like literally not even knowing what to expect. I actually watched this when I had just seen one of my friends mention it on Instagram, and I saw the poster and I was like, that's a really interesting poster, because I just saw like the pink dudes and I was like, that looks kind of cool. So I just decided to watch the first episode just out of curiosity, and then I immediately just got sucked in to this incredible show. And I think it's because of the message that the show has about how we treat people in society who are poor, or who we think are like lower than the rest of us, or how we don't value their lives. Like, there's a lot of really great social commentary in the show that will stop and make you think. And it's just also like, the show is just so fascinating, you know, like these characters are going to be playing childhood games, but if you lose, you die. Every time they were playing one of these games, I couldn't fucking breathe. Like, I was holding my breath the entire time. Like, I was just so nervous for them, because this is the kind of show where like they don't care if that's your favorite character. Like, they will get killed off, you know, like they don't care. So it just felt like every time they were playing the games, I was like, this is such a risk. Like, one of them are about to die, and it was just so intense. And episode 6 had me crying my eyes out. Like, I haven't cried that hard over a show in such a long time. Like, the entirety of episode 6 just like broke my fucking heart. Like, I was not expecting to cry that much. I literally had nightmares for like a week after watching episode 6. Like, it just stayed on my conscious for such a long time. Like, there was just something about the way that show was written in that episode. I'll never get over it. Like, I don't think I'll ever emotionally recover from watching that episode. But like, God, what an incredible show. And I think something that's really wild about the show is that the main protagonist dude in the show is not even like my main favorite character. Like, he's probably not even in my top 3. But I think the side characters on this show were written so well. Like, they were so great. And I especially loved the detective character in the show. I thought he was really interesting. Like, anytime that he was on the screen, I was so invested in like what his character was doing and what he was up to. God, I loved the show so much. I am kind of nervous, to be honest, at the idea of a second season, because I don't think that the show needs it. I think the show stands really well on its own, but I also know that it's like, of course they're gonna do a second season, because this is Netflix's like highest earning show, and it's like so popular. So it's like, of course it makes sense for them to do a second season. I just hope that if they do a second season, they do it well and not just to make money. The show is so good on its own, and I wouldn't want a second season to ruin the greatness of that first season. And also, even like this first season, I even said when I originally talked about the show how I wasn't a huge fan of like the final plot twist revealed towards the end of the show, and I still do stand by that. But even with like my little nitpicks about this show, it's still my number 1 favorite show of the year, because no other show has impacted me the way that this show has. Like, I was obsessed with this show. Like, I watched it so quickly. I watched it again with my sister, and it's just like, it's just one of those shows that's gonna stay on my mind, and it just really makes me think about the world. I loved it so much. Those are all of my top 10 favorite shows of 2021. In case you're wondering, no, I have not yet caught up on the second season of The Morning Show. That is one that I know I need to watch it, but I actually just got Apple TV again. So I didn't have Apple TV there for a little bit, so that's why I wasn't able to watch it yet. And then I do still want to watch the 3rd season of American Crime Story, Impeachment. I have not yet watched that one, but that show tends to be like some of my favorites, so haven't watched it yet. I do have plans to watch Alice in Borderland, Succession, and Sex Education, because I keep getting recommended those shows like non-stop, and so I think next year like I'm definitely gonna have to check those out. But yeah, just in case you were wondering why any of those shows might have not made it on my list, it's because I have not yet seen them. Yeah, let me know what are some of your favorite TV shows of 2021. Do you agree with any of the shows that I have here on my list, or what shows do you recommend that I watch based on all of the shows that I love on this list? I would love any TV show recommendations. I would appreciate it, because I love watching TV shows, you know? It's one of my favorite things to do. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, as always, and I will see you very soon with another video. Bye.